do. My name is Newton, and Isaac too. Now I'm sure you've all heard my name, because my laws are so famous, and science is my game. What's Newton's laws? I hear you all cry. Well, think of balls falling, rockets and things in the sky. Now today, we've got one fun-packed session. It's about the church, science and an history lesson. An history lesson, Newton? I hear you all moan. That's well boring. Can we please go home? No, because history's fun. And in 1609, we looked through a telescope for the very first time. We saw those planets as never before. The key to the universe that opened the door. Now, my merry players will enlighten you all. We got some happy, some sad, some tiny, some tall. They tell the life of Galileo, his troubles, his strife, and his best pal, Alfonso.
This cathedral's drafty. It's about time they fixed it.
Yeah, it's always the same here. Still, it'll keep us from falling asleep in the sermon.
Your remarks surprise me, Galileo. You seem to be a God-fearing man. I wouldn't think you'd have much trouble trying to stay awake.
Oh, I've got no trouble with God, Alfonso. It's just with these preachers, when they start droning on about creation and the universe. Can't help feeling they've got it all wrong.
You mean you don't believe that God created heaven and earth in 7 days and 7 nights, and decreed that the sun should go round the earth, giving us light by day and moon by night?
The church interprets the Bible far too literally. It doesn't fit. Only last week I had to endure an hour-long sermon about all this nonsense.
You mean you don't believe that the sun and other celestial orbs go around the earth in perfect circles as God ordained?
No, doesn't suit the observations. Copernicus has proved quite convincingly that the earth goes around the sun, and even some of the Greeks knew better.
But Aristotle and Ptolemaeus, they were the greatest authorities of all time, and they teach us that the earth is the centre of the universe.
The church would do well to forget Aristotle and Ptolemaeus and use its eyes for once.
Shush, Galileo. Maybe overheard. Such remarks can only bring you trouble. So how are you finding medical school so far?
Boring. I only enrolled to please my father.
Oh, but think of the money we'll be earning when our training is completed.
Money isn't everything, Alfonso. Mathematics is my real love. Where's this priest?
But mathematics, it won't make you a living. I hope to be a great surgeon. I cannot wait to be dissecting that human body that they've promised us.
Sounds lovely. Dissecting the rat and the mouse, though, made me feel physically sick. Mathematics is much purer. It alone will lead to universal truths.
Whatever. Pater noster, Crisae in sales. Galileo, are you not well?
Shh, perfectly well.
Then why are you measuring your pulse and why are you staring up at the
At last!
lamp?
I have a use for all of this tedious training, Alfonso. I have a hypothesis.
Oh, what's that?
That is that the time of the swinging of an object depends only on the length of the support, not on the mass of the object or the size of the swing.
What use is such a hypothesis?
What use is a dead mouse? What use is remembering all the names to all the guts in the human body? Do you know the medical school wanted us to supply our own rats and mice for dissection and they wouldn't bring theirs?
But there are rats and mice everywhere, Galileo.
Good point. See, there's this one I found in the baker's the other day.
Galileo!
Observe, Alfonso, how the mouse swings much faster than the lamp.
Oh, Galileo, please, be more discreet.
Yeah, sure. Still, I have another hypothesis.
Oh, what's that?
That is that the speed of a falling body is independent of its mass.
But Aristotle's law of nature teaches us that heavy objects fall faster. It's quite obvious that a feather will fall much more slowly than a lead weight.
Aristotle's law of nature be damned. I can disprove Aristotle on the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Shh, here comes the priest.
Omne mas, omne sanctum.
Oh, I hate the smell of incense.
Oh, shush, Galileo, and show some respect.
Pater noster, qui in salis, sanctificatur nomen tuum. Avene regnatum.
Another boring sermon.
You two.
But Alfonso, notice how the censer burner swung faster than the lamp, and slower than the mouse.
Now that Galileo, he's a bit bad. Swinging a dead mouse around is really sad. That's not the sort of behaviour I expect. When you're in a church, show a little more respect. Pendulum motions are really cool. It's one of the first things they teach you in school. Now, despite all his flaws, I've got to thank him because his demos go far to proving Newton's laws. For a mouse, they allow me to calculate by its tail length the swinging rate. My laws are universal, but despite all that, you better not go round swinging a cat.
Why must we keep doing these stupid stunts,
Because I'm poor. Tutorial work in mathematics doesn't pay very well, and I've got 4 kids to feed.
There are only 3 professions fit for a gentleman, Galileo. Church, the law, and medicine.
And all 3 have several things in common.
Oh, what's that?
Dogma, dusty books, the endless remembering of useless names and useless rituals. Besides, I'm hopeless at Latin. Give me the law of nature any day over the law of man.
You should have stuck with medical school, like I advised you to. There's so much more money to be had as a physician.
Had no choice, they kicked me out. But I've got some great ideas for inventions that'll make me a lot of money. I think that pendula can be used in clock.
Kicked you out? But why?
And today's demonstration is really going to bring in the crowds. Lots of very silly people have bet that the heavyweight will fall faster than the lightweight, and I'll be rich.
But a feather falls much more slowly.
I haven't brought a feather.
But the crowd will expect it. Why can't we just roll the balls down a slope? It's much less hassle.
Boring, it doesn't bring in the crowds like today's demonstration.
But at least it's safe. And you would have an excuse not to demonstrate the feather. Why were you kicked out of medical school?
Now they call me practicing my darts in the dissection room.
Now I understand. What a stupid thing to do. Why?
I was merely investigating the motion of projectiles in 2 dimensions.
You should thank your lucky stars University of Pisa gave you any sort of job after that. Come on, let's get on with the show.
Right.
Roll up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another fun-packed afternoon of demonstrations with famous physicist and mathematician Galileo Galilei. And today, by special request, Galileo will climb to the top of the tower and release weights in order to disprove Aristotle's law of nature, the widely held view that objects of different mass will fall at different speeds. And now a very big welcome to Galileo Galilei! Please stand back, ladies and gentlemen. Some of these weights are very heavy. Galileo will now release a large and a small weight simultaneously.
You cheated! Do the experiment again with a heavier weight!
Well, of course. And I don't cheat, I'm a scientist. The truth is my goal, not money.
Watch out below.
Well, that's pretty convincing. Who'd have thought after 1500 years no one would have questioned Aristotle with such a simple experiment? You'd better pay up.
I'm not convinced.
How could you fail to be convinced? You're as bad as the Greeks. Won't you accept the unevidence of your eyes? Experiment's too vulgar for you. Think you have a hotline to the mind of God? Hand over the money.
No. I have one last challenge for Dr. Galileo. I challenge you to release a feather and a lead weight together.
I haven't got a feather.
I will oblige. Now release the weight and the feather.
Release them! Release them! Release them!
Look out below.
Oh, Galileo, what a pretty mess. Now, how are you going to get us out of this one?
I'll address this crowd. Now you all saw how all of the weights fell at the same speed.
Yes,
but what about the feather? Well, I admit the feather fell more slowly, but
Money back! Money back!
I have a hypothesis that in the absence of air resistance, then
Hot air! Theories! We saw it with our own eyes! Money back! Money back!
allow me to finish. Now you all must be aware that when you travel by horseback, you feel the movement of air.
So what? You promised you would disprove Aristotle's law of nature.
I believe that Aristotle's law of nature would be disproved for all objects in the absence of air resistance.
Rubbish! Waffle! Hot air! Ridiculous idea! Money back!
Well, in the absence of air resistance, why, even a feather would fall at the same speed as a lead weight.
Boo! Hiss! Hiss! Boo!
Poor Galileo, he has a job convincing all that angry mob. Because Newton's laws are hard to prove when there's stuff around and things can't move. Now in empty space, I do declare, you could move forever because there's no air. You could whiz around, even by horse, until acted upon by another force. And Leo's feather, to your surprise, would flash right past your eyes. Now cut the fun. I have to explain. A serious matter, let me make it plain. Don't try this at home. It ain't a good idea. If you had a row or a bit of a tiff, don't go dropping stuff off high buildings and cliffs. Because the people below won't thank you, I'm sure, just because you verified Newton's third law. Now, to Holland we go, to a lens maker's shop, run by Hans Lippershey and his wife Charlotte. They're pillars of society, respected by all. Hans and his bride stand 6 foot tall. If glasses you want, Hans is your man. He'll grind and he'll polish just as fast as he can. With his wife at his side, they're such a happy sight to serve their customers, their work day and night. Now even with grinding grit in their hair, they're so in love. They couldn't even care.
Not having much trade today, Lottie.
Well, give me a chance to catch up on the orders. Is polishing such a slow business? Can you give me an hand?
I have to be the counter to serve the customers.
No point in having customers' hands unless we can get the work done on time.
Here's the customer now.
Are my spectacles ready yet? I've been waiting 3 weeks already.
Let me just check with my assistant, madam. I'm afraid the new lenses are not quite polished yet.
My last pair of glasses came back all scratched. I could barely see through them.
That's probably because the scratches from grinding were not properly polished out, madam. I will have to instruct my assistant. Let me reassure you that the new glasses will be free from scratches.
It will not do. I shall take my custom elsewhere.
Are you surprised we get no trade when we provide such a poor service, Hans?
It's the customer's fault. They come in here and waste our time. They tell us they're long-sighted and they turn out to be short-sighted. They tell us they're short-sighted when they're really long-sighted. Most of these are rejects, and I could never find ones of the correct strength. Have there been children been playing with the lenses again?
It's so difficult to stop the children playing with the lenses, Hans. They have such fun.
You must tell them not to come in here. Look at this one, for example. This is so strong. You'd have to be nearly blind to need this to read with. Who is this monstrosity for? We're opticians to humans, not elephants. It's exceptionally weak. Are you sure you ground it for long enough?
I only followed the customer's instructions.
It's a lovely day today, isn't it?
What use is that to me, bent over a grindstone? Fed up being your slave.
Lottie! Lottie!
Oh, what on earth is it, Hans? Is there another road traffic accident?
Oh, you can see the stones of the church tower in perfect detail. You must come and look at this.
How very exciting.
If you hold a long lens, with long focus in line with a small lens of short focus, separated by the focal length of the long lens, and you put the short lens to your eye, you see a magnified image. Now, if I could fix these two lenses into a long tube...
And what use is that to anyone? I hardly think anyone would consider it to be the height of fashion to be seen strolling along the street with such a contraption strapped to their eye.
You can see the perfect detail of the church tower. I will call my new device a spyglass.
If I want to admire the stones in the tower, I'll walk over the street for a closer look.
No, you don't seem to understand.
Oh yes I do. A spyglass indeed. You'll cause a scandal with that thing.
What are you suggesting?
There's more to be seen from that window than church towers.
You surely cannot believe that I would be capable of such an infidelity. Anyway, the image is upside down. It would be of little use to any general viewing.
Never mind. You must promise me you'll never use that thing. People who'll gossip will be the scandal of the town.
But think how useful it could be. People could use it to watch birds down on the shore.
Precisely. And to pry into other people's business. The Catholic Church would have good use for it.
But it could be so useful to a mariner at sea or the military. Lottie, if I patent this, I'll make a fortune. The kids might never have to go hungry again.
Hans, enough! I forbid you from using this spyglass.
Yes, dear.
The children and I have known about these toys for ages, but I could never tell Anne. It's bad enough trying to keep the children inside.
Now, our man from Pisa is so very well known that he goes by his first name alone. Like Jesus or Muhammad, he's Galileo still. But I can't really imagine us calling our great bard Shakespeare Bill. He's the father of all modern science, on that we can agree. Although a strong contender must surely be me. He's a mathematician, an astronomer, an inventor too. And he got up to some saucy antics that might surprise you. He contradicted the Greeks, annoyed his best friend, although they remained greatest of chums to the end. He got thrown out of the church, enraged the Pope, invented the world's first telescope. Now he drops stuff from high towers in front of a large crowd. With today's health and safety, that would never be allowed. The space-time continuum is mine to dissolve, and our little story I will soon resolve. So let's get started, on with the show. Enter Galileo!
Is everything ready, my dear?
Yes, Papa. The telescopes are out, dinner is underway, the wine is chilled.
Do you remember Alfonso? I don't suppose you would, you're a bit young.
Yes, Papa. He was your friend from medical school.
How well you remember.
Mama and I could never understand why you gave up medical school, Papa.
Well, you know, my dear, mathematics was my one true love.
If you'd stuck with medical school, then maybe I'd have shoes on my feet and proper clothes instead of rags when I was a child.
Oh, my dear.
And proper meals.
How can my favourite daughter say such things, now that she has everything she could want?
You are forgiven, Papa. I still love you.
Love you too, Marie.
And if you'd been a physician, then I'd never have learned all about the stars and planets.
And without my beautiful daughter to make me these wonderful clothes, I would be dressed in rags. I think of you every time I tend my vines with that gardening cloak you made me. Oh, where is Alfonso? Wanted to show him the sun before it went down.
Galileo, my friend!
Alfonso!
Oh, long time no see.
Welcome to Padua.
Thank you about this letter that you sent me, about this new invention, and the invitation for me to come to Padua. But why the haste for me to travel? It's such a long way to come.
Well, this might be the happiest moment of my life, Alfonso, and I wanted to share it with my friend.
So, is this the new invention you've called me all this way to see?
Yes, but we're not just here to look at it, but to look through it at the glory of God's heavens. When I was in Venice, I learnt of this instrument invented by a Dutchman. It produces a magnified image of distant objects. He called it his spyglass.
Oh, Galileo, does the church know of this device?
No, and it wouldn't occur to them to look through it at the glory of God's heavens.
That's not what I meant. I fear for your safety. You've already been given several warnings not to preach on the heliocentric hypothesis of Copernicus.
It's not a hypothesis, it is fact. The sun is at the centre of the universe. Now, I know the church considers me to be a bit of a troublemaker, but it'll take more than warnings to stop me preaching the truth.
Have you forgotten the fate of Giordano Bruno? The Catholic Church burnt him to death for preaching that the earth goes around the sun.
Well, I think the church is above such barbaric acts now. And anyway, I couldn't make a journey to Holland. It's out of the question. It's 3 weeks by horse and even longer by boat. So I set about instead replicating my own version of the Dutchman's instrument. Mine, I think, is far more powerful than his. It magnifies 15 times.
So, does the Dutchman use the spyglass to observe the heavens?
No. He sold his patent to the military to make his fortune.
I remember the time, Galileo, when your main aim in life also seemed to be to make money.
Well, that was a long time ago. I had children to feed. I hate this word spyglass, though. I find it very ugly. I want to call my instrument a telescope, as befits its higher purpose.
Telescope? I like the name too.
Now, we're wasting time chatting here. I want to show you all the delights I have for you. We're going to look at the sun first. Now, looking at the sun directly would burn your eyes.
Like a burning glass used to kindle fire.
So then I put smoke glass in front of the lens to lessen the glare. But the window glass around here is very, very poor quality and it produced an awful image. So instead I came up with putting a piece of card behind the lens like this and projecting the image of the sun onto it. Tell me what you see.
I see dark blemishes. You should find better paper, Galileo.
No. These blemishes are on the face of the sun itself.
But surely God would not create such an imperfect body.
Well, watch as I move the paper. The blemishes follow the image.
I see dark blemishes. Your lenses must be flawed or dirty.
No, I see the same thing through different lenses. Now, I've been watching these sunspots over a couple of weeks now, and they appear to move across the face of the sun. I believe the sun rotates, just as the Earth does.
Oh, Galileo, I feel quite faint. My head is spinning.
Alfonso, what's wrong?
We've been taught to believe that the Earth is immovable, and that all heavenly spheres orbit the Earth, out of respect. Does not the moon always face the Earth?
The moon does indeed always show us her face, but the sun clearly does not. This is a very interesting phenomenon. I must research it further.
Here is your wine, Papa. How's the moon this evening?
It was very good, thank you, Maria.
Dinner will be half an hour, so don't get carried away with all that stargazing.
Your daughter is beautiful, Galileo, but very shy. How she's changed since I last saw her.
Yes, she's really taken a liking into my telescope. I think she knows the stars better than I do. But she'll be a famous musician like her grandfather. You should hear her playing the lute.
Oh, I would love that, Galileo.
I have an excellent wine merchant. Do you agree?
Oh, very good, Galileo.
Now watch how the sun follows the evening star into the sunset. I envy you the first look through the telescope.
Well, what will we see?
It's a surprise. Tell me what you see there.
Well, I see a little moon, but it hardly seems magnified at all.
That's no moon, Alfonso. That's Venus, the evening star.
But why is it a tiny crescent, just like the moon?
A good question. When I saw this, I was overjoyed, because I knew that this would once and for all resolve the argument between the Ptolemaic Earth-centered universe and the Copernican Sun-centered universe. I spent long hours working out the geometry. Please, let me explain. Now, if Venus moved around the Sun in cycles and epicycles, just as Ptolemaeus taught, we would always see her as a crescent.
But that is what we see.
Now, let me finish. Now, Copernicus taught that Venus orbited the Sun like this, and then we'd see her as a disk, like a full moon. Now, I swear that's how we saw Venus 3 months ago, and this would only happen if the universe worked the way he taught. What I'm going to do is plot the course of Venus over the coming months. Follow her as she goes behind the Sun as the evening star and comes out as the morning star. I'm so excited about what I will see.
It's all so clear, Galileo. I believe you now, and not the church.
Good for you, Alfonso. Now, Jupiter and Saturn will be rising soon, and they too have surprises for you. But first of all, we're going to look at the moon. Come on, look at the moon, come. Tell me what you see.
Haha, magnificent. But a rough and pockmarked object. The church teaches that the moon is smooth, but now I believe my eyes.
Well, do you see those little circular features? Well, I believe those could be volcanoes, just like Etna or Vesuvius here.
Ah, yes, I see little shadows.
And I also believe that I could measure the height of those volcanoes and mountains, because as the sun moves about, the shadows become longer and shorter.
This is beyond my wildest expectations, Galileo. I'm looking at the real world from space.
Yes.
Papa, dinner is ready.
Wonderful, we'll come presently. You must be very hungry after your long journey. What would you like? Spaghetti bolognese, cannelloni, tagliatelle?
Now, to outdo the Dutchman, Leo's toiled day and night. He's unveiled the heavens, oh, they're such a wondrous sight. He can feed his family, he's no longer skint. If he charged an admission fee, he'd soon make a mint. Now the motion of Venus, that lovely evening star, that sweet goddess I have often worshipped from afar, She moves round the sun in such perfect harmony, and as you know, harmonic motion's my speciality. Now the sun's at the centre of this, there is no doubt. But Leo, please don't shout, don't spread it about, because the church has eyes and ears and pretty nasty spies. And even though the Pope himself is the nicest of guys, he's even confessed to Leo that he thinks the earth might turn, but all the officials want is to see Leo burn.
Music and wine go well with star parties, Galileo. Maria plays so beautifully. How peaceful it is out here.
She'll play for us again if we ask her nicely, or if we can drag her away from my telescope. Jupiter is rising well now. Jupiter has some surprises for you too. Come and look at this, Alfonso.
Why, there are 4 attendants, all in line.
Exactly. I was so excited by this, I had to go out for a walk. It was as if God had granted me this vision so that I could prove my theories. Here was a family that owed no allegiance to Earth. The sun there has Mercury, Venus, the Earth, Mars. Why can't Jupiter have his satellites just as the Earth has the moon?
You finally convinced me that everything you say about God's universe is true, Galileo.
Next up is Saturn, the god of time. Now, Saturn is a special case, Alfonso. Please look very carefully.
Oh, well, it is very odd. Is there something wrong with your lens? Is it out of focus?
No. You saw how clear Jupiter was.
Well, it looks to me as if Saturn has 2 attendants closely preceding it. Or maybe 2 handles like a drinking vessel.
Very interesting, Alfonso. It's as if the attendants were perhaps closer and larger. I mean, I was forming the impression that the orb itself was flattened slightly.
Galileo, I think I saw some people moving in the bushes.
Oh, don't worry about it. Have some more wine. There's a public thoroughfare beyond my garden. I love to chat to my neighbours about the glory of God's heavens.
No, I now see figures approaching among the trees.
There he is. I heard him preaching the heliocentric universe. Let's have him now, sir.
No, wait. Let's see what he has to say for himself. Good evening, Professor Galileo.
Good evening.
We just happened to be passing. Lovely evening, isn't it?
Yes. Why are you here?
Is that your spyglass?
It's not a spyglass, it's a telescope. It's far better than anything the church has in their possession.
Oh, let's have him for impertinence now, sir.
You've been drinking?
Yes, and is there a law against that? I mean, me and my friend Galileo and I have merely been drinking fine wine and taught the glory of God's heaven.
Would you like a look? Jupiter is very well placed this evening.
No. Couldn't risk being seen looking through that. It's more than the job's worth.
Afraid of what you might see?
Let me come to the point.
I was wondering when you would.
We're here to convey a message from Rome. As you know, the church disapproves of your activities and has given you several warnings. Now, His Holiness the Pope is more sympathetic to your views of late and has decided to forgive your wrongdoings. Nonetheless, you must promise not to preach or publicise the heliocentric views of the universe. Is that quite clear?
Perfectly clear. You sure you don't want to look?
Oh, well, quite look. Oh, look.
No, we do not want to look through your telescope. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Oh, good evening. Trust the church to ruin a perfectly good star party, eh?
Oh,
But I tell you, they'll all be queuing up outside our door soon.
Oh, you must be careful with your words, Galileo. The church is so easily upset.
Now Jupiter's little moons are God's gift to man. They prove Newton's laws of motion like nothing else can. They move like clockwork night after night, and one day they might help us prove the speed of light. But I feel sorry for my pal Leo, for the truth about Saturn he never shall know. But my telescope's bigger, and wondrous things have been seen by Cassini, for the planet has rings. Now, this Christmas for the Pope, I got him a new type of shiny telescope. A Newtonian reflector with mirror concave. The type that His Holiness might use for a shave.
I must have the finest collection of telescopes in all Europe. And not one of them is any good to me. And I pray God that He grant me one last look at the heavens. But I know that I'll be blind until I die. There are few pleasures left to an old man. But I have my music. And Alfonso can come for one last visit.
Galileo, this is your friend, Alfonso.
Alfonso? Come into the light so that I can see your face. 20 years, Alfonso. Sit down. How are you?
Well, I finally retired from my work as a physician. My hands are not up to surgery anymore. But I have plenty to do to fill my time. By day, I go for walks and watch birds. And by night, I need never be bored for the ever-changing panorama of God's heavens. Thank you for introducing me to the finest pastime on earth.
You're welcome.
And you?
I still take pleasure in my writings and my mathematics. But they might have to cease. My eyesight is becoming so bad. And Maria is ill. And I can't see her. She's in isolation.
Oh, Galileo! Is there anything I can do to help?
No. Thank you for the offer. She's been well looked after.
You do not mention your book. Everyone knows about that.
I didn't think it would be so controversial. Please, let's speak about happier things.
Is there something troubling you, Galileo?
I've been summoned to Rome to stand before the Inquisition.
Oh, Galileo!
But I've been putting them off. I'm too ill to travel, and the plague is making long journeys very difficult. But they've threatened to come and take me away in chains if I don't go.
Oh, Galileo, you must find the strength to go to Rome and make your peace with the Church. I will accompany you to provide support.
Thank you.
I've been reading your book. I fear for your safety.
I don't see why the Pope should be so offended. I was always well received in Rome.
Do I have to spell it out, Galileo? Your great fictional work has become a bestseller, but it has also caused great controversy. It seems quite foolish to write a work of fiction that so clearly resembles a living character.
Whom do you think it represents?
Either you're more naive than I thought, Galileo, or you clearly wanted the world to know. It's quite obvious your character Simplicio is meant to be His Holiness the Pope himself. It's quite obvious you set out to ridicule His Holiness for adhering dogmatically to the geocentric system of Ptolemaios, while you cast yourself out as a hero who champions with the heliocentric system of Copernicus.
A good book. But the Pope was coming around to my view, and I don't see why he should feel so threatened.
Exactly! Why make matters worse for yourself? Nobody likes to be made the object of a public joke. You behaved quite childishly. I think being summoned to Rome should be enough to get the message through.
And they've banned the book as well.
Oh, Galileo! I implore you, please, make your peace with the Church before it's too late.
I'll go, Alfonso. I'll go.
Galileo, please can I look at Saturn one more time with your most powerful telescope?
Be my guest, Alfonso. I have always admired your close observations.
Galileo, this is the clearest view by far I've had of Saturn. Come on, have a look.
Oh, damn it! I curse the God who makes a musician deaf or an astronomer blind. Look, tell me what you see.
This is the clearest view I've ever had. It looks to me as if... please don't laugh. It looks as if Saturn is surrounded by a solid ring. No touching its surface.
Alfonso, have you been drinking heavily again?
Would I joke on such an important matter? Saturn is surrounded by a solid ring. Has no one else reported such an observation?
No. Don't think I'd blame them if they did. My telescopes are still the most powerful in Europe.
You're beginning to sound like the Catholic Church itself.
I sincerely believe you, Alfonso. Have I ever had reason to doubt you after all our long years of friendship? But this is a problem for someone greater than me to solve. How could a solid ring like this be stable?
God knows.
Very good, Alfonso. God does have a sense of humour after all. Come on then, let's go inside.
Galileo, I believe I saw someone moving in the bushes.
Are you sure? I don't see anything.
Oh, how does a man who is nearly blind see in the darkness of his own garden?
Good point.
Come on, let us withdraw to your house.
Yeah. I'm in the mood for music and some wine.
Poor Leo's in trouble, the Pope is not amused. To the Vatican he's been summoned, of heresy accused. What if he defies them? Will they drag him away? I'm not about to tell you and ruin our little play. For preaching that the earth moves round the central fire, will poor Leo end up like Bruno upon a funeral pyre? Oh! Get off, you naughty fire! Not on the hair. Gosh. Well, we're no soon enough, 'cause the Pope has his mind made up. Leo's fate has been sealed, our little play soon to wind up.
I would dearly love to see this apparition you describe, Alfonso, with my own eyes.
Well, I'd like to return tomorrow and make some better observations before you get out the wine.
You are welcome. I've been wondering about this ring, Alfonso. What if it's made up of thousands of particles, just as the Milky Way is made up of innumerable stars? I'm just dreaming. I don't hear any noises. Did our visitors leave?
I now see figures approaching out of the trees. His Holiness the Pope is there.
Alfonso, you've really overdone it on the wine now.
No, I'm deadly serious. He's flanked in full robes and he's got 2 officials.
Then take my telescope, Alfonso, go.
But there must be others more deserving.
No, the university has one, my children another. Promise me that you'll teach our grandchildren to use these telescopes properly and to love the heavens as we do.
I promise, Galileo.
Now go while there's still time for you to make a getaway. The servants will show you the safe route.
No, I will face the Inquisition with you.
What harm to the church as an old man? You have more to lose. I will face them alone.
No.
Do this then, for the love of God and the truth. Go.
Goodbye, Galileo. We'll meet again one day.
Yes. Don't worry about me. I'm sure I'll see Saturn on my way to heaven.
Galileo, we meet again. This time you'll not escape so lightly.
Why have you come in person? Why haven't you sent your officials as you usually do? I'm just a frail old man. Spare me. I can do the church no more harm.
We've heard all this before. Now you must pay the price for this heresy.
If I must burn, then so be it. I've led a good life. But I will not recant my views on the Copernican system.
What impertinence! Kneel before His Holiness!
Okay, lay off. That's enough. Don't get me wrong, Galileo. I am a reasonable man. The church has abandoned these barbaric practices. All that we require from you is to publicly renounce your adherence to the Copernican system and promise never to publicise or preach it again.
But you told me that you were beginning to favour the heliocentric...
No, the Ptolemaic system remains the official church doctrine. We will now perform a short public ceremony. You'll be free to do as you wish within the confines of your own home, subject to the vows you're about to make for the rest of your life. Will you kneel before me? Repeat after me. I, Galileo Galilei, do hereby swear by Almighty God never to write on, preach on, publicise or otherwise advertise the Copernican system.
I, Galileo Galilei, do hereby swear by Almighty God never to lecture on, preach on, write on, or otherwise advertise the Copernican system.
I, Galileo Galilei, do hereby curse, abjure and attest the false hypothesis of Copernicus that the earth moves around the sun.
I, Galileo Galilei, do hereby curse, abjure and detest the false hypothesis of Copernicus that the earth goes about the sun.
I now place you under house arrest. My officials will take station outside your home to ensure you never leave nor entertain guests with the intentions of violating the vows you have just made. You may now stand. Do you have anything more to say for yourself?
Well, I thank you, Your Holiness, for such leniency. But it still moves.
I know, Galileo. Don't keep rubbing it in. I'm in a very difficult position. Some of my cardinals have demanded life imprisonment, even death. The Catholic Church is fighting a war against Protestants, and any departure from the official church doctrine cannot be tolerated. I hope you understand I have to restrict your freedom.
Am I allowed to entertain friends?
You may, under close supervision.
Well, thank you, Your Holiness, for permitting an old man one of his few pleasures. But I must ask, why are you here in person? Florence is so far from Rome. You must be very busy.
May I ask you one thing, Galileo?
Of course.
But first you must promise to remain silent about the details of our meeting.
Sworn as much already. What can I do for you?
It must be very distressing, Galileo, to be an astronomer who is nearly blind.
It's not so bad. So I have my family, my friends, my writing, my mathematics. I like music and a glass of wine. Why are you here?
I'm informed that Jupiter and Saturn are well placed in the heavens at the present time.
They are indeed.
May I look at them through one of your telescopes? I wish to see the wonders you have described to me with my own eyes.
I'm sorry, Your Holiness, but I cannot comply with your request.
Why ever not?
I've given all my telescopes away. What use are they to a blind man?
I hope you didn't mind me asking.
All is not lost. Telescopes are becoming much more readily available all across Europe, and some will be more powerful than my own. If you're lucky, you'll get one for Christmas. Would you stay for a glass of wine?
No, thank you, Galileo. I better be off back to Rome. It's a long journey.
Well,
goodbye, Galileo.
Goodbye, Your Holiness. I'm sorry. Have a safe journey.
Check out the rings on that one. Now, you gotta feel sorry for that old Pope. He so wanted to look through that telescope. He's had plenty of chances, but always said no. And now he's become an old man, just like Galileo. There's hope yet for these God-fearing men. They're sure to get into heaven, and then, if they have a good flight and the trajectory's right, the moons of Jupiter they're sure to sight. And what's more, I think you'll find that if God is kind, and these two planets are well aligned, by my laws in heaven, they will spy the rings of Saturn as they fly by.
I wonder what Galileo and Newton would have made of all these
these space probes.
I bet they would understand, and so would Kepler with his laws of planetary motion. Their maths was really quite advanced. Newton could have got a probe to Jupiter even in the 1700s. It's just he didn't have the rocket technology or fancy computers.
What about Einstein's relativity?
Forget it, just a tiny correction. You don't need Einstein to get to advance. Give Newton a computer the size of your mobile, and he could have got a probe to orbit around Jupiter or Saturn, no trouble. After all, computers were almost non-existent for the first lunar probes. Wow, here's Jupiter. I like the way the great red spot churns around like some massive hurricane. It's as big as the Earth. I don't think Galileo's telescopes even showed it.
Now, here is the news of the 4 Galilean satellites, so called because they were first discovered by Galileo exactly 400 years ago. We can see them using the smallest of telescopes, even binoculars, and they can change position every night.
I think Io is the most amazing moon in the solar system.
It always reminds me of a pizza. Pizza. Biscuit?
The orange and yellow deposits are caused by stress on the rocks and heat generated from the tidal effects of Jupiter. Just imagine those tides, volcanoes spewing their debris right out into space. And Europa's an odd place as well. Totally ice covered, but smooth, with lots of cracks. No craters at all. They think there could be an ocean of water underneath.
Cool. Is that where there may be primitive forms of life?
It is. Maybe like life around an undersea volcanic vents. It doesn't need any oxygen or even light.
Is this Ganymede?
Yes. The largest of the Galileans. It's bigger than Mercury. Gives you some idea of the size of that moon system. Plenty of craters, but smooth areas as well. It's a young surface, where craters have been obliterated by surface movement of ice or even water.
Was this Callisto? It looks a bit like Ganymede to me.
Nothing but craters as far as the eye can see. No smooth bits at all, and very icy. They think it's the oldest of the Galileans.
Can you imagine if Galileo could come back and see this? There were just stars in his toy telescope.
Lovely thought.
In a moment, we'll be going live to the Cassini orbital, where it is producing some more stunning images of Titan, one of Saturn's largest moons.
Titan is turning out to be a really weird world.
But while we wait, here is some earlier footage which is showing off Saturn's rings in more detail than ever before.
Galileo would have loved this. He never saw Saturn's rings properly.
What a shame.
When we were in Rome, we heard of a plan to put up a statue of Galileo in the Vatican.
You must be joking.
No, it's to mark the 400th anniversary of Galileo's telescope. They're going to put it in the gardens near where he was locked up when he was awaiting trial. There's celebrations planned all over Italy.
And all over the world. It's International Year of Astronomy 2009. Wow. Come to the latest pictures.
The Pope wants to finally put a close to the Galileo affair. He's decided to clear Galileo of all his wrongdoings.
About time too. And I hope he's watching.
Alright, my lovelies. Yes, Leo and I were really impressed with all your telescopes, space probes and all the rest. You kids are really lucky today with all that stuff. For Leo and me, a toy scope was enough. Now Leo has made his peace with the Pope, and he never got burnt, which was always his hope. So when poor Leo died in 1642, another genius was born, and you'd never guess who. Now where we are, the views are stupendous. There's no need for a telescope, so please don't try and send us any space probes or tourists. It's really too far. You can't even reach your nearest star. Now our demos, they don't work anymore, because you can't go round dropping balls on heaven's floor. Bye-bye. makes finding a good biography impossible to find. Sorry. We saw the planets as never before. The key to the universe that opened the door. And I can't remember the next bit.